The day Earth's junk food became the galaxy's most precious resource began with a bag of cheese puffs and humanity on the brink of starvation. In 2157, as global crop failures ravaged the planet's food supply, Caleb Wright stood before the imposing crystalline spires of the Galactic Council headquarters on Zyrex, clutching his last remaining Earth snack. Caleb, a 35-year-old former junk food company executive, had been chosen as humanity's unlikely savior. His expertise in food production and preservation techniques made him the perfect candidate to negotiate Earth's entry into the interstellar alliance, dominated by the technologically advanced Chalnoth species. The stakes couldn't have been higher: secure aid to feed Earth's starving billions, or face the collapse of human civilization. As he entered the Grand Hall, Caleb's eyes widened at the sight of the alien dignitaries. The Chalnoth, with their sleek, bioluminescent skin, moved with an otherworldly grace. Kalar, a high-ranking Chalnoth diplomat assigned as Caleb's liaison, approached with a welcoming gesture. "Earth representative, we welcome you to Zyrex," Kalar intoned, his voice a melodious hum. "The Galactic Council is prepared to offer assistance in exchange for your world's allegiance." Caleb nodded, his throat dry. He reached into his pocket for a bottle of water, but his fingers brushed against the forgotten bag of cheese puffs. As he pulled out the water, the snack bag slipped from his grasp, spilling its contents across the polished floor. The reaction was immediate and unexpected. Curious Chalnoth diplomats bent to examine the bright orange morsels. One by one, they sampled the cheese puffs, their expressions shifting from curiosity to shock, then to something Caleb could only describe as ecstasy. Kalar's skin pulsed with vibrant colors, his eyes wide with wonder. "What is this substance?" he asked, voice trembling. Caleb blinked in surprise. "It's just a snack, cheese puffs, junk food." "Junk food?" Kalar repeated, savoring each syllable. "It triggers a response in our brain chemistry unlike anything we've ever experienced. The combination of salt, artificial flavors, and preservatives, it's intoxicating." News of the cheese puff's effects spread through the council chamber like wildfire. Alien diplomats swarmed Caleb, clamoring for a taste of the human delicacy. In that moment, Caleb realized he held more than just a snack. He held Earth's salvation. With a deep breath, Caleb addressed the council. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Alliance, I propose a trade agreement. Earth can provide vast quantities of our junk food in exchange for the advanced agricultural technology and resources we need to solve our global food crisis." The chamber erupted in excited chatter. The Chalnoth leadership, their skin now a kaleidoscope of pulsing colors, nodded eagerly. But before they could respond, a harsh voice cut through the commotion. "This is outrageous." The speaker was a Vorax, a species known for their conservative views. "Introducing this junk food to the galactic community will destabilize carefully balanced interspecies relations. We cannot allow it." The Vorax ambassador's eyes narrowed as he glared at Caleb. "We will use military force if necessary to prevent this trade agreement." Tension filled the air as Caleb found himself at the center of an interstellar standoff. The fate of Earth hung in the balance, dependent on the addictive properties of processed snack foods. As he faced down the hostile Vorax, Caleb grappled with the ethical implications of his proposal. Could he justify potentially addicting an entire alien species to harmful foods if it meant saving humanity? With the eyes of the galaxy upon him, Caleb Wright prepared to navigate the treacherous waters of alien politics, armed with nothing more than a bag of cheese puffs and the weight of human survival on his shoulders. Caleb's mind raced as he faced down the hostile Vorax ambassador. The fate of Earth hung in the balance, and he knew he had to act fast. Taking a deep breath, he addressed the Galactic Council. "Esteemed members, I request an emergency session to demonstrate the full potential of Earth's contributions to the galactic community." The council chamber buzzed with murmurs as the alien diplomats considered his request. After a tense moment, the Chalnoth High Counselor nodded in agreement. "Very well, Earth representative. You have one solar cycle to prepare your presentation." As the session adjourned, Caleb immediately set to work. He contacted Earth, speaking rapidly into his communication device. "This is Caleb Wright. I need every variety of junk food we can spare shipped to Zyrex immediately, and send Dr. Marcus Howard. We need his expertise." Within hours, Earth's last remaining cargo ships were loaded with a cornucopia of snacks, sodas, and processed foods. As Caleb oversaw the setup of the exposition hall, he marveled at the colorful array of treats. Bags of chips in every imaginable flavor, stacks of candy bars, and fridges full of fizzy drinks lined the walls. Dr. Howard arrived just as the final displays were being arranged. The food scientist's eyes widened as he took in the scene. "Caleb, what exactly are we doing here?" Caleb quickly briefed him on the situation. "We need to show them that our food technology is more than just empty calories. Can you demonstrate how we can adapt these products for alien physiologies?" Dr. Howard nodded, his scientific mind already whirring with possibilities. "I'll need access to data on the various species' biology, but yes, I think we can make this work." As alien diplomats began to filter into the exposition hall, Caleb noticed Kalar moving purposefully through the crowd. The Chalnoth diplomat's skin pulsed with subtle hues as he engaged in hushed conversations with representatives from other species. Caleb approached him during a lull. "Kalar, what are you up to?" The Chalnoth's skin briefly flashed a pattern of trust. "I'm gathering support for our alliance. Many species are intrigued by the potential economic benefits of human food technology." As the exposition unfolded, Dr. Howard took center stage. He stood before a captivated audience, gesturing to a holographic display of molecular structures. "The key to Earth's junk food lies in its carefully crafted flavor profiles and texture combinations," he explained. "By analyzing the sensory receptors of different species, we can tailor these foods to provide a safe and enjoyable experience for all." The alien diplomats watched in fascination as Dr. Howard demonstrated the creation of a chip-like snack designed specifically for the silicon-based physiology of the Quartzians. A brave Quartzian volunteer crunched down on the experimental snack, his crystalline features lighting up with pleasure. As positive buzz spread through the exposition, Caleb allowed himself a moment of hope. But his optimism was short-lived. From the corner of his eye, he spotted a Vorax figure slipping away from the crowd, clutching samples of various snacks. Caleb's informant, a small gecko-like alien named Zix, scurried up to him moments later. "The Vorax ambassador, Zrix, has taken food samples to his scientists," Zix whispered. "They're analyzing them for potential weapons applications." Caleb's stomach dropped. He quickly pulled Dr. Howard aside and explained the situation. The scientist's face grew grim. "Some compounds in our snack foods could theoretically be weaponized against certain physiologies. We need to get ahead of this." As they deliberated on their next move, an alert chimed on Caleb's communication device. It was a message from Earth's provisional government. "Vorax military factions mobilizing. Threat level critical. Diplomatic solution crucial." Caleb's mind raced. They needed something big to counter the Vorax accusations and prove Earth's value to the galactic community. Suddenly, he remembered a classified project he'd been briefed on before leaving Earth. "Dr. Howard," Caleb said, lowering his voice, "what do you know about Project Hyperfresh?" The scientist's eyes widened. "The food preservation technology? It's still experimental, but the results are promising." "Why?" "Because it might just save Earth," Caleb replied. He quickly outlined his plan to reveal the technology to the Galactic Council. As they worked to prepare their presentation, the exposition hall continued to buzz with activity. Alien diplomats sampled Earth snacks, their reactions ranging from delight to curiosity to occasional disgust. Kalar moved through the crowd, his skin pulsing with persuasive patterns as he continued to build support for the Human Chalnoth Alliance. Hours passed in a blur of activity. Caleb and Dr. Howard worked tirelessly, compiling data, preparing demonstrations, and refining their arguments. They knew they would have only one chance to sway the Council and prevent the Vorax attack. As the time for the crucial Galactic Council session approached, Caleb stood before a mirror, straightening his Earth Federation uniform. The weight of his homeworld's future pressed down on him, but he forced himself to stand tall. In his pocket, he carried a small bag of cheese puffs, a reminder of how this unlikely journey began. Kalar appeared at his side, the Chalnoth's skin glowing with a mix of anticipation and concern. "The council is assembling," he said. "Are you ready?" Caleb nodded, his eyebrows furrowed. "Let's go save Earth." They made their way to the Grand Council chamber, where representatives from across the galaxy were taking their seats. At the center of the room, a holographic display flickered to life, ready to showcase their presentation. As Caleb stepped up to the podium, he saw Ambassador Zrix enter with a group of Vorax scientists. The ambassador's eyes gleamed with malicious triumph, and Caleb knew the Vorax were prepared to launch their attack on Earth's credibility. Taking a deep breath, Caleb prepared to address the council. The fate of humanity rested on his words and the revolutionary technology he was about to reveal. As he opened his mouth to speak, the chamber fell into an expectant hush. Silence. A siren blared through the chamber. Red emergency lights flashed, casting an eerie glow across the faces of the assembled alien diplomats. "What's happening?" Caleb asked, his heart racing. A holographic display materialized in the center of the room, showing a map of Earth surrounded by flashing warning symbols. A voice, tinny and urgent, filled the air. "Attention all representatives. We have a critical situation developing on Earth. Multiple reports of widespread illness among the human population. Source unknown. Medical emergency declared." Caleb's blood ran cold. He turned to Dr. Howard, who was already pulling out his datapad, his fingers flying across the screen as he accessed the incoming information. "This can't be," Dr. Howard muttered, his face growing pale. "Caleb, it's the junk food, the crop failures. They've altered the chemical composition of our food products. They're toxic." The chamber erupted into chaos. Alien diplomats shouted accusations and demands for explanations. Ambassador Zrix's voice rose above the din, filled with righteous anger. "The humans have poisoned us all. This is an act of war." Caleb's mind raced. Their entire strategy, Earth's chance at survival, was crumbling before his eyes. He grabbed Dr. Howard's arm, pulling him close. "We need a new plan now. What about Hyperfresh?" Dr. Howard's eyes widened with realization. "Yes, of course. We can adapt it, use it to neutralize the toxic compounds, but we'll need time and resources." Kalar approached, his skin pulsing with urgent patterns. "Earth representative, you must address the council immediately. The situation is spiraling out of control." Caleb nodded, straightening his uniform. He strode to the center of the chamber, raising his hands for silence. The cacophony gradually subsided, replaced by a tense, expectant quiet. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Council," Caleb began, his voice steady despite the fear churning in his gut, "I must offer our deepest apologies for this unforeseen and tragic development. The harm caused by our food products was entirely unintentional, a result of environmental changes on Earth that we did not fully understand." He paused, scanning the room. Anger and suspicion still dominated many faces, but he also saw confusion and, in some, a glimmer of sympathy. "However, we have a solution," Caleb continued. "Dr. Howard, please explain Hyperfresh technology to the council." As Dr. Howard stepped forward, Caleb noticed Ambassador Zrix huddled with a group of Vorax scientists, their expressions triumphant. He knew they were preparing to strike. Dr. Howard's voice filled the chamber, clear and confident. Hyperfresh is a revolutionary food preservation technology developed on Earth. It can extend the shelf life of organic matter indefinitely while maintaining nutritional value and flavor. But more importantly, we can adapt this technology to neutralize the toxic compounds in the contaminated food products, preventing further harm. Murmurs of interest rippled through the alien representatives. Caleb seized the moment, stepping forward once more. "In light of recent events, we propose a new arrangement. Earth will freely share Hyperfresh technology with all members of the Galactic Council. We will provide teams of human scientists to assist in its implementation and customization for each species' unique biological needs." Before the council could respond, Ambassador Zrix surged to his feet. "Lies and misdirection," he snarled. "We have proof that Earth's so-called junk food is nothing more than a thinly veiled attempt at genocide." The Vorax ambassador activated a holographic display, showing images of aliens writhing in pain, their bodies contorted by the effects of the toxic food. "Humanity cannot be trusted. We demand immediate reparations and the complete isolation of Earth from the galactic community." The chamber descended into pandemonium once more. Accusations flew back and forth, with some species calling for Earth's expulsion from the Council, while others argued for a more measured approach. Amid the chaos, Caleb's communication device buzzed. He glanced at the screen and felt his heart stop. A message from Earth's defense systems scrolled across the display. "Alert! Vorax extremist faction has launched attack fleet. Multiple targets, Earth and human colonies. Estimated time to engagement, 6 hours." Caleb locked eyes with Kalar, whose skin had turned a sickly shade of gray. The Chalnoth nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation without a word being spoken. Taking a deep breath, Caleb raised his voice above the din. "Silence!" The sheer force of his command cut through the noise, and the chamber fell quiet once more. "We face a crisis that threatens not just Earth, but the stability of the entire Galactic Council," Caleb declared. "A Vorax extremist faction has launched an attack fleet against Earth and its colonies. They will reach our solar system in 6 hours. Gasps and exclamations of shock rippled through the assembly. Even Ambassador Zrix looked taken aback, clearly unaware of his faction's military action. Caleb continued, his voice filled with urgent conviction. "This is a moment that will define the future of our galactic community. Will we allow fear and mistrust to drive us apart, or will we stand united in the face of aggression?" He paused, letting his words sink in. "I propose we form a joint peacekeeping fleet with ships and personnel from multiple species to intercept the Vorax attackers and protect not just Earth, but the principles of peace and cooperation that this council was founded upon." The chamber buzzed with intense discussion. Kalar moved among the representatives, his skin flashing persuasive patterns as he garnered support for the proposal. Dr. Howard huddled with a group of alien scientists, rapidly explaining the potential applications of hyperfresh technology. Minutes ticked by, feeling like hours to Caleb as he watched the debate unfold. Finally, the Chalnoth High Counselor called for a vote. Holographic displays flickered to life around the chamber as representatives cast their decisions. Caleb held his breath as the results materialized. A clear majority in favor of the joint fleet. Relief washed over him, but he knew this was only the beginning. As the chamber erupted into a flurry of activity, with representatives coordinating their military resources, Caleb turned to Dr. Howard. "We need to neutralize that toxic junk food fast. Can you do it?" The scientist nodded grimly. "I'll need a team, the best minds from every species we can get, and access to advanced laboratories." "You'll have it," Caleb assured him. He turned to Kellar, who was approaching with a determined set to his shoulders. "The Chalnoth flagship awaits, Earth representative," Kellar said. "We must coordinate our defense strategy immediately." Caleb nodded, the weight of responsibility settling heavily on his shoulders. As he followed Kalar out of the chamber, he caught a glimpse of Ambassador Zrix, the Vorax's face contorted with hardly restrained rage. The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. Aboard the Chalnoth flagship, Caleb worked tirelessly with alien military strategists to plan their defense. Holographic displays showed the approaching Vorax fleet, a menacing swarm of red dots steadily closing in on Earth's solar system. Meanwhile, Dr. Howard led a diverse team of scientists in a race against time, working to adapt hyper-fresh technology to neutralize the toxic compounds. Reports of affected aliens continued to pour in from across the galaxy, adding urgency to their task. As the deadline approached, Caleb stood on the bridge of the Chalnoth flagship, surrounded by a mix of human and alien officers. The view screen showed the assembled might of the Joint Galactic Council fleet, a colorful array of ships from a dozen different species, united in purpose. "Vorax fleet entering the solar system," a Chalnoth officer announced, his skin pulsing with tense patterns. Caleb took a deep breath, steadying himself for the confrontation to come. The future of Earth, and perhaps the entire galactic community, hung in the balance. As the enemy ships appeared on the long-range sensors, Caleb steeled himself for the greatest challenge of his unexpected diplomatic career. The view screen flickered to life, displaying the menacing silhouette of the Vorac's armada. Hundreds of ships, their hulls gleaming with an otherworldly sheen, bore down on the joint Galactic Council fleet. "All ships, hold formation," Caleb commanded, his voice steady despite the tension coursing through his body. "Remember the plan? We stand united." The Chalnoth captain beside him, his skin pulsing with anticipation, nodded in agreement. "United we stand, united we fall," he echoed, the translation software struggling to capture the nuances of his native tongue. Seconds ticked by, each moment stretching into eternity. Then, without warning, the Vorac's opened fire. Brilliant beams of energy lanced across space, slamming into the forward ships of the Council fleet. "Evasive maneuvers!" Caleb shouted as the bridge rocked violently. "Return fire, but remember, we're here to defend, not destroy." The space between the two fleets erupted into chaos. Vorac's weapons tore through the shields of several Council ships, leaving them listing and venting atmosphere. But the coalition responded with remarkable coordination. Human pilots, their reflexes honed by generations of video games and flight simulators, executed maneuvers that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Their erratic flight patterns confused Vorac's targeting systems, buying precious time for the rest of the fleet. Chalnoth vessels unleashed salvos of energy weapons, their beams cutting through Vorac's shields with surprising efficiency. Meanwhile, bubble-like force fields emanated from Xyloxian ships, enveloping damaged Allied vessels and allowing them to withdraw from the fray. Despite their valiant efforts, the Council fleet found itself slowly pushed back. The Vorac's pressed their advantage, their superior numbers threatening to overwhelm the defenders. Caleb's mind raced, searching for a solution. His gaze fell upon a discarded junk food container, lying forgotten in a corner of the bridge. A wild idea began to form. "Captain," he said, turning to his Chalnoth counterpart, "how many empty junk food containers do you have on board?" The alien's skin rippled with confusion. "Thousands. Why?" "I need them all," Caleb replied, a grin spreading across his face. "And I need access to your engine room." What followed was a flurry of activity as Caleb explained his plan. Crew members scrambled to collect every empty snack container they could find, while engineers worked to safely extract radioactive waste from the ship's engines. "Fill each container with this mixture," Caleb instructed, indicating a hastily prepared concoction of reflective materials and radioactive particles. "Then load them into the torpedo tubes." The Chalnoth captain's skin pulsed with skepticism, but he gave the order. Within minutes, the improvised decoys were ready for deployment. "Launch the decoys," Caleb commanded. Hundreds of junk food containers, now repurposed as makeshift weapons, streaked towards the Vorac's fleet. For a moment, nothing happened. Then chaos erupted among the enemy ships. Vorac's sensors, fine-tuned to detect the unique energy signatures of Earth's processed foods, registered the decoys as high-value targets. Their formation fractured as ships broke away to intercept the perceived threat. "It's working!" Caleb exclaimed. "Now's our chance! All ships, press the attack!" The Council fleet surged forward, taking advantage of the confusion. On board the flagship, Dr. Howard and a diverse team of alien scientists worked feverishly to modify the hyperfresh technology. "We've done it!" Dr. Howard's voice crackled over the comms. "The hyperfresh beam is ready for deployment. It should disable their organic systems without causing fatalities." "Excellent work," Caleb replied. "All ships equipped with the modified hyperfresh tech target key systems on Vorac's vessels. Let's show them the power of our cooperation." Beams of shimmering energy lanced out from Council ships, striking Vorac's vessels with surgical precision. Where the beams touched, organic components rapidly broke down. Weapon systems failed, navigation controls went dark, and life support systems flickered. The tide of battle shifted dramatically. Vorax ships, once seemingly invincible, now drifted helplessly in space. The demonstration of the Council's power, coupled with their restraint in avoiding unnecessary casualties, sent shockwaves through the Vorax fleet. Suddenly, a transmission cut through the chaos. "This is Sub-Commander Krell of the Vorax fleet," a gravelly voice announced. "We wish to negotiate a cessation of hostilities." Caleb's heart raced. This was the opportunity they'd been waiting for. "This is Caleb Wright, representing Earth and the Galactic Council. We're open to negotiations. Stand down your remaining forces, and we'll arrange a meeting." As the fighting died down, Caleb organized an emergency conference aboard the Chalnoth flagship. Representatives from the Council races gathered, along with Sub-Commander Krell and a delegation of Vorax officers. "We propose a mutually beneficial arrangement," Caleb began, his voice firm but diplomatic. "Earth will share its hyper-fresh technology with all Council races, including the Vorax. In return, we ask for an immediate end to hostilities and assistance in addressing the current crisis on Earth." Krell's compound eyes narrowed. "And why should we trust you, human? Your toxic food has already caused harm across the galaxy." "Because we're offering more than just technology," Caleb countered. "We're offering a solution to your own ecological crisis. Our scans show high levels of industrial pollutants in your food supply. Hyperfresh can help detoxify it, potentially saving millions of Vorax lives." The Vorax delegation buzzed with surprised murmurs. Krell's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "You would help us, even after our aggression?" "That's what the Galactic Council stands for," Caleb replied. "Cooperation, mutual aid, and the betterment of all species." After hours of tense negotiation, an agreement was reached. The Vorax would stand down, and in exchange they would receive access to hyperfresh technology and assistance in implementing it. As news of the victory spread, celebrations erupted across Earth and allied planets. But for Caleb and Dr. Howard, the work was just the beginning. "We need to get hyperfresh working on a global scale," Dr. Howard said, his face haggard from exhaustion. "Every minute we delay, more people fall ill from the contaminated food." Caleb nodded grimly. "I'll coordinate with the Council. We'll need every resource we can get." The Galactic Council, impressed by Earth's handling of the crisis, voted to fast-track humanity's membership. This decision opened the floodgates of alien technology and resources, crucial for addressing the ongoing food crisis and environmental damage on Earth. As Caleb began organizing a massive humanitarian effort, dispatching joint human-alien teams across Earth and affected worlds, an alert chimed on the bridge of the Chalnoth flagship. "Sir," a Chalnoth officer called out, his skin pulsing with concern, "we're detecting strange energy signatures at the edge of charted space. It doesn't match any known species." Caleb exchanged worried glances with the alien representatives around him. They had weathered one storm, but it seemed another was looming on the horizon. The newly forged alliance of humanity and alien races would soon face its next great challenge. The newly forged alliance of humanity and alien races would soon face its next great test. Caleb leaned forward, studying the holographic display. "Can you pinpoint the source of these energy signatures?" The Chalnoth officer's skin rippled with concentration as he manipulated the controls. "Negative, sir. The readings are unlike anything in our database. They seem to be emanating from a region just beyond the Cygnus arm." Dr. Howard, who had been quietly observing, stepped forward. "If I may, I'd like to analyze this data. It might help us understand what we're dealing with." Caleb nodded. "Make it happen. In the meantime, we need to inform the Galactic Council. This could be a threat to all our worlds." Within hours, an emergency session of the Galactic Council convened. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in the Grand Chamber, their faces etched with concern. Caleb, now serving as Earth's official ambassador, took his place at the podium. "Esteemed colleagues," he began, his voice resonating through the chamber, "we face a new challenge. Unknown energy signatures have been detected at the edge of charted space. Their nature and origin remain a mystery, but given recent events, we cannot afford to ignore this potential threat. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. A Xyloxian representative, her translucent skin shimmering, spoke up. "What do you propose, Ambassador Wright?" Caleb took a deep breath. "I propose a joint expedition to investigate the source of these energy readings. We must pool our resources, our knowledge, and our courage to face whatever lies beyond." Debate erupted among the council members. Some argued for caution, others for immediate action. As the discussion intensified, Dr. Howard approached Caleb, his eyes wide with excitement. "I've analyzed the data," he whispered. "These energy patterns, they're not random. There's a structure to them, almost like a language. We need to get out there and see this for ourselves." Caleb nodded, then raised his voice to address the council once more. "Dr. Howard's analysis suggests we're dealing with something far beyond our current understanding. This expedition isn't just about defense, it's about discovery, about pushing the boundaries of our knowledge as a united galactic community." His words struck a chord. One by one, representatives voiced their support. The Chalnoth High Counselor stood, his skin pulsing with tenacity. "The Chalnoth people stand with Earth. We will contribute our finest ships and warriors to this cause." Others followed suit. Within the hour, the Council had approved the mission and begun assembling a team of experts from various species. Dr. Howard was unanimously chosen to lead the scientific contingent, his expertise in hyperfresh technology deemed invaluable for the challenges ahead. Preparations moved at a feverish pace. The advanced exploration vessel, Starweaver, was outfitted with the latest in galactic technology, complemented by innovative human adaptations. Caleb marveled at the ship as he boarded, its sleek lines and shimmering hull, a testament to the combined ingenuity of a dozen worlds. As the Starweaver lifted off, leaving the vibrant blue of Earth behind, Caleb felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. They were venturing into the unknown, carrying the hopes and fears of the entire galactic community. Days passed as they journeyed toward the coordinates of the energy signatures. The crew, a diverse mix of species, worked together with growing efficiency. Cultural barriers fell away in the face of their shared mission. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. "We're approaching the target coordinates," the Xyloxian navigator announced, her voice tense. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a massive, swirling nebula. Brilliant hues of purple, green, and blue danced across the cosmic storm, its beauty belying the danger it presented. "Our sensors are going haywire," Dr. Howard reported, his fingers flying over the controls. "The radiation and gas density are off the charts. We can't rely on standard navigation through this." Caleb's mind raced. Then a memory surfaced, a documentary he'd watched years ago about deep-sea exploration. "What if we treat this like an ocean?" he suggested. "Use sonar principles, map the density variations?" Dr. Howard's eyes lit up. "Brilliant! We can modify our sensors to emit low-frequency waves, map the nebula's structure. It won't be precise, but it should get us through." The next few days were tense as the Starweaver inched its way through the cosmic storm. Human crew members, drawing on centuries of maritime and deep-sea experience, guided the ship through the treacherous currents of gas and energy. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they emerged on the other side. A collective gasp went up from the bridge crew as they beheld the sight before them. A massive artificial structure hung in space, its surface a mesmerizing pattern of lights and shadows. It orbited a dying star, tendrils of energy visibly flowing from the star to the construct. "By the cosmic egg," the Chalnoth weapons officer breathed, his skin pulsing with awe. "What is that thing?" Dr. Howard was already scanning the structure, his expression a mix of wonder and intense concentration. It's some kind of factory," he announced, "and it's ancient. The energy readings suggest it's been operating for millions of years." As they watched, a section of the factory opened, releasing a swarm of small, seed-like objects into space. The objects accelerated away, quickly disappearing from view. "Those must be what's causing the energy signatures we detected," Caleb mused. "But what are they? And who built all this?" Before anyone could respond, a new alarm sounded. The Xyloxian navigator's eyes widened. Multiple ships detected. They're on an intercept course. Caleb straightened, his diplomatic instincts kicking in. All hands, battle stations, he ordered. But hold fire unless fired upon. Whoever they are, they might have the answers we seek. The bridge crew tensed as a fleet of sleek, organic-looking ships surrounded the Starweaver. A communication request flashed on the main screen. Caleb took a deep breath, straightened his uniform, and nodded. Open a channel. Let's hope they're in a talking mood. The screen flickered to life, revealing a being unlike any Caleb had encountered. Its form seemed to shift and flow, reminding him of the nebula they'd just traversed. When it spoke, its voice resonated with an otherworldly harmony. I am Arch-Cultivator Zana of the Gardeners, the being announced. You trespass in the domain of our ancestors. Explain your presence or face obliteration. Caleb stepped forward, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. I am Ambassador Caleb Wright of Earth, representing the Galactic Council. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and understanding. Perhaps we can find common ground? Xana's form shimmered, a hint of curiosity breaking through the hostility. You intrigue me, Earth being. What knowledge do you offer in exchange for our forbearance? A plan began to form in Caleb's mind. He glanced at Dr. Howard, who nodded in understanding. We offer the fruits of our world's innovation, Caleb replied, a technology called HyperFresh, capable of preserving and enhancing organic matter. In return, we seek to learn about this remarkable factory and the seeds it produces. There was a long pause as Zana seemed to confer with others off-screen. Finally, the Arch-Cultivator's form solidified, taking on a more humanoid appearance. Your offer is acceptable. We will meet aboard your vessel to discuss terms. As the communication ended, Caleb let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. They'd avoided immediate conflict, but he knew the real challenges were just beginning. The fate of multiple civilizations might hinge on the negotiations to come, and the secrets hidden within the ancient factory hanging silently in space. Space hanging silently in the distance. Caleb turned to his crew, a mix of dedication and uncertainty in his eyes. Prepare for diplomatic contact, he ordered. Dr. Howard, I want you by my side. Your expertise on HyperFresh will be crucial. As the Starweaver's airlocks cycled open, Arch-Cultivator Zana and two other gardeners materialized on board. Their fluid forms shimmered and pulsed, adapting to the ship's atmosphere. Welcome aboard, Caleb said, extending his hand in a human gesture of greeting. Zana's form rippled in response, a tendril extending to meet Caleb's hand. The meeting began cordially, with both sides sharing information about their respective cultures and technologies. Dr. Howard explained the intricacies of HyperFresh, demonstrating its capacity to preserve and enhance organic matter. The gardeners listened with keen interest, their forms shifting in patterns that suggested deep contemplation. In turn, Zana revealed the purpose of the ancient factory. It is a seed forge, the Arch-Cultivator explained, created by our ancestors to cultivate life across the galaxy. The seeds it produces are designed to terraform barren worlds, making them suitable for organic life. As the discussion continued, alarms suddenly blared throughout the Starweaver. The ship's sensors detected a massive energy surge from the seed forge. Something's wrong, Zana exclaimed, their form rippling with agitation. The seed forge is malfunctioning. It's releasing seeds prematurely. The view screen showed millions of tiny glowing objects erupting from the factory, scattering in all directions. Caleb's mind raced, grasping the magnitude of the crisis. If those seeds reach inhabited worlds, he began, they could overwrite existing ecosystems, Dr. Howard finished, his face pale. We need to act fast. Caleb quickly organized the crew into two teams. He would lead the first group to address the malfunctioning seed forge, while Dr. Howard would head the second team to find a way to neutralize the terraforming seeds. As Caleb's team boarded a shuttle to the ancient factory, Dr. Howard converted the Starweaver's cargo holds into makeshift laboratories. The human scientist worked feverishly alongside alien colleagues, adapting hyper-fresh technology to counteract the seed's effects. Aboard the seed forge, Caleb and the gardeners faced a harrowing task. The factory's systems were in chaos, its energy core pulsing erratically. Zana interfaced directly with the ancient machinery, translating its functions for the human crew. "The star's instability is causing the malfunction," Zana reported. "We need to redirect the excess energy." Drawing on his experience with Earth's power grids, Caleb proposed a solution. "We can create an energy siphon," he suggested. "Use the excess power to fuel a shield around the factory." The team worked tirelessly, human ingenuity complementing Gardner technology. They repurposed parts of the factory's outer hull, creating a makeshift energy conduit. As they activated the siphon, the factory's erratic pulsing slowly stabilized. Meanwhile, on the Starweaver, Dr. Howard faced repeated setbacks. Each attempt to neutralize the seeds failed, the terraforming process proving remarkably resilient. "It's not working," he muttered, frustration evident in his voice. "We need to approach this differently." Inspiration struck as he recalled his work on HyperFresh's nutrient delivery system. "What if we don't try to destroy the seeds," he mused, "but instead render them inert?" After hours of intense work, Dr. Howard's team succeeded in creating a deactivation wave, a burst of energy that could shut down the seeds without harming existing life forms. As both teams made progress, an urgent transmission came through from the Galactic Council. The first wave of seeds had reached inhabited systems, causing widespread panic. Reports flooded in of alien vegetation rapidly overtaking native ecosystems. Caleb, having returned to the Starweaver, conferred with Dr. Howard and Zana. "We need to distribute the deactivation wave across the galaxy," he said, "and fast." Zana's form pulsed with an idea. "The seed forge," the arch cultivator suggested. "We can use its launching mechanism to spread the deactivation wave." But calibrating the ancient factory's systems proved to be a monumental task. The star's continued instability threatened to undo their earlier repairs. "There is a way," Zana said, a note of hesitation in their harmonic voice. "We possess an artifact called the Stellar Harmonizer. It can stabilize the star temporarily." "But," Caleb prompted, sensing the unspoken caveat. "It requires a direct neural interface," Zana explained. "The process is potentially fatal to the user." A heavy silence fell over the group. Caleb squared his shoulders, decision made. "I'll do it," he said firmly. Despite protests from his crew, Caleb underwent a rapid training session with the gardeners. He learned to channel his consciousness through the device, feeling the raw power of the cosmos flow through him. As Dr. Howard and his team loaded the deactivation wave into the Seed Forge's distribution system, Caleb prepared for the interface. The Stellar Harmonizer, a crystalline object that seemed to bend light around it, was attached to his temples. "Initiating neural link," Zana announced. Caleb's world exploded into light and sensation. The dying star's energy flooded his mind, threatening to tear his consciousness apart. He fought through the pain, focusing on the techniques the gardeners had taught him. Slowly, agonizingly, Caleb exerted control over the star's output. The Seed Forge's system stabilized, allowing Dr. Howard to begin the launch sequence. Millions of deactivation wave capsules fired into space, following the paths of the original seeds. The bridge crew watched in tense silence as the capsules disappeared into the void. As the launch sequence completed, Caleb's body went rigid. His eyes rolled back, and he collapsed to the floor. "Disconnect him!" Dr. Howard shouted, rushing to Caleb's side. The gardeners quickly removed the Stellar Harmonizer, but Caleb remained unresponsive. As Zana worked to stabilize Caleb's condition using advanced gardener medical techniques, an urgent transmission came through from Earth. Some of the terraforming seeds had reached the Sol system, threatening to undo the progress made since the food crisis. Dr. Howard looked from the unconscious Caleb to the view screen showing Earth, his face a mask of persistence. "Prepare the Starweaver for emergency launch," he ordered. "We're going home." As the ship's engines hummed to life, Dr. Howard gazed at the stars streaking past. They had averted one crisis, but he knew the challenges ahead would test them all. The fate of Earth, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. Balance! The Starweaver's engines roared to life, propelling the ship towards Earth at maximum speed. Dr. Howard stood at the viewport, his face etched with concern as he watched the stars streak by. "Status report," he called out, turning to face the bridge crew. The Xyloxian navigator's fingers danced across the control panel. "We're pushing the engines to their limits, Doctor. Estimated arrival time at Earth, 72 hours. Dr. Howard nodded grimly. "That might not be soon enough. Let's see if we can shave off a few hours." As the Starweaver hurtled through space, the ship buzzed with frantic activity. Dr. Howard led a team of scientists, both human and alien, in refining the deactivation wave technology. The cargo bay had been converted into a makeshift laboratory, filled with a chaotic array of equipment and test samples. "We need to increase the wave's potency without compromising its safety," Dr. Howard explained, gesturing to a holographic display of the wave's molecular structure. "Focus on amplifying the resonance frequency." As they worked, reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The terraformed seeds had reached dozens of inhabited worlds, causing widespread panic and ecological havoc. On the main view screen, images flashed by. Lush, alien jungles overtaking city streets, strange tendrils wrapping around buildings, and panicked civilians fleeing from rapidly expanding vegetation. Earth, their home, had not been spared. The interim government's transmission was filled with static, but the fear in the speaker's voice came through clearly. "The seeds are spreading faster than we can contain them. Entire regions are being evacuated. We need help, and we need it now." Dr. Howard's team redoubled their efforts, pushing themselves to the brink of exhaustion. Sleep became a luxury as they raced against time, knowing that with each passing moment, more of their home was being consumed by alien flora. Finally, after countless failed attempts and near misses, a breakthrough came. A young Chalnoth scientist let out a triumphant cry, her skin pulsing with excitement. "Doctor, look at this!" Dr. Howard rushed over, his eyes widening as he examined the results. "This is it," he breathed. "We've done it." As the Starweaver entered Earth's orbit, the crew got their first real look at the devastation. Vast swaths of green covered what should have been familiar continents. Strange, bioluminescent patches glowed in the night side of the planet, a haunting beauty that belied the destruction beneath. "My God," Dr. Howard whispered, his hand pressed against the viewport. "It's worse than we thought." The ship's comms crackled to life with a barrage of distress calls from the surface. Cities worldwide were struggling to hold back the tide of alien vegetation. In New York, the Statue of Liberty stood half-covered in writhing vines. The Amazon rainforest had become an impenetrable mass of competing alien and native species. In Beijing, the Great Wall snaked through a sea of pulsating purple leaves. Dr. Howard wasted no time. "Prepare the shuttles," he ordered. "We'll deploy teams to key locations around the globe. Priority 1 is neutralizing the seeds and halting the spread." As the science team scrambled to load equipment onto the shuttles, a commotion from the medical bay caught Dr. Howard's attention. He rushed over to find Caleb Wright, pale but conscious, attempting to stand. "Caleb, you're awake!" Dr. Howard exclaimed, relief evident in his voice. Caleb gripped the edge of the bed, his legs unsteady. "What's our situation, Doctor?" Dr. Howard quickly brought him up to speed. Caleb listened intently, his teeth clenched. "I need to be down there," he said. "Earth needs every hand it can get." "Absolutely not," Dr. Howard protested. "You're in no condition to—" "I wasn't asking permission," Caleb interrupted, his voice firm. He turned to Arch-Cultivator Zana, who had been silently observing. "Will you clear me for duty?" Zana's form shimmered with concern. "Your neural patterns are still unstable from the stellar harmonizer. However," the Arch-Cultivator paused, seeming to come to a decision. "Lyra will accompany you. She is our most skilled medical officer and can monitor your condition." A lithe, silvery being materialized next to Zana, Lyra bowed slightly, her form rippling in greeting. "I will ensure Ambassador Wright's safety," she said, her voice a melodious whisper. With the matter settled, Caleb joined the deployment teams. As they descended to the surface, the true scale of the crisis became apparent. The alien vegetation grew at an astonishing rate, visibly creeping across landscapes even as they watched. Caleb and Lyra set up a command center in what remained of New York City Hall. The building's walls were already half covered with iridescent leaves, their edges curling inward as if seeking to consume the structure entirely. Inside, Caleb coordinated with world leaders and alien representatives, his diplomatic skills put to the ultimate test. "We need to present a united front," he urged during a global video conference. "This crisis affects us all equally." As Earth's defenses solidified, urgent pleas for help arrived from across the galaxy. Caleb's heart sank as he realized the scope of the problem. Hundreds of worlds were facing ecological collapse, and many lacked the resources to combat the threat effectively. In a moment of desperate inspiration, Caleb's eyes fell on a vending machine in the corner of the command center. Its garish advertisements for sugary snacks seemed absurdly out of place amid the crisis. Then an idea struck him. "Dr. Howard," he called over the comms, "I need you to hear me out on something. It's going to sound crazy, but I think I might have a solution." He outlined his plan, using Earth's junk food as bait for the terraform seeds. Dr. Howard was silent for a long moment before responding. "It's absolutely insane," he said slowly, "but it just might work." The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. Dr. Howard's team worked feverishly to modify the deactivation wave, embedding it within the molecular structure of various junk food items. The gardeners lent their biotechnology expertise, creating hybrid seed traps that could safely contain and neutralize the terraform seeds upon contact. As the first batches of modified junk food rolled off the production lines, Caleb presented the plan to the Galactic Council. The debate was heated, with many members expressing skepticism. But as reports of worsening conditions poured in from affected worlds, the Council reluctantly gave its approval. Earth's remaining junk food factories sprang into action, retooled to produce the seed traps on an industrial scale. Shipments were prepared for distribution across the galaxy, with Earth taking the lead in this unprecedented relief effort. Caleb watched from the command center as the first planes took off, loaded with pallets of modified snack foods and soft drinks. It was a surreal sight, humanity's much-maligned junk food industry now serving as the potential salvation for countless worlds. As he turned back to the crisis maps, a new alert flashed on the main screen. Reports were coming in of Vorax raids on weakened planets, taking advantage of the chaos caused by the terraform seeds. Caleb's mind raced, seeing the potential for the situation to spiral out of control. He knew that without a unified response, the galaxy could fracture, leaving it vulnerable not just to the current crisis, but to future threats as well. Taking a deep breath, he opened a channel to the Galactic Council. "Members of the Council," he began, his voice steady despite his fatigue, "I have a proposal regarding the Vorax situation. It's unorthodox, but I believe it may be our best chance for long-term stability." As he outlined his plan to offer the Vorax a role in the recovery efforts, he could see the shock and skepticism on the faces of the council members. But he pressed on, laying out his vision for a more integrated galactic community. "We have an opportunity here," Caleb argued, his voice gaining strength, "to turn enemies into allies, to forge a new path forward together." The debate raged in the council chambers, but Caleb was already moving to the next phase of his plan. He sent out encrypted messages to moderate Vorax factions, including Sub-Commander Krell's group, inviting them to direct negotiations. As he waited for responses, Caleb turned his attention back to the global crisis maps. The junk food seed traps were showing promising results, with alien vegetation growth slowing in several key areas. But the battle was a long way to go. Lyra appeared at his side, her form shimmering with concern. "Ambassador, your neural patterns are becoming erratic. You need rest." Caleb waved her off, his eyes fixed on the incoming data streams. "There's no time," he said. "We're at a critical juncture. The next few hours could determine the fate of not just Earth, but the entire galaxy." As if to underscore his words, a new alert flashed on the screen. A Vorac's battle group had been detected entering the Sol system. Caleb straightened, his exhaustion momentarily forgotten, as he faced this new challenge. "Open a channel," he ordered. "Let's see if we can turn this crisis into an opportunity." "Opportunity," Caleb said, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. The Vorac's battle group loomed on the interface, a cluster of menacing shapes against the starry backdrop. To everyone's surprise, a familiar voice crackled through the comms. "Ambassador Wright, this is Sub-Commander Krell. We request a parley." Caleb's eyebrows shot up, but he quickly composed himself. "Granted, Sub-Commander. Please state your intentions." What followed was a series of intense negotiations that stretched over several hours. Krell, now leading a significant portion of the Vorac's fleet, had seen the devastation caused by the terraform seeds on countless worlds. He recognized that the current crisis threatened not just individual planets, but the stability of the entire galaxy. "We offer a ceasefire," Krell announced, his gravelly voice carrying a note of weariness. "And more than that, we offer our assistance in distributing your junk food seed traps across the galaxy." The command center erupted in a flurry of whispers and exclamations. Caleb, however, remained focused. "That's a generous offer, Sub-Commander. But why should we trust you?" Krell's response was simple. "Because survival demands cooperation. We've seen worlds burn, Ambassador. If we don't act now, there will be nothing left to conquer." With this unexpected alliance, the balance of power shifted dramatically. The more aggressive Vorac's factions, seeing Krell's forces align with the Galactic Council, were forced to reconsider their position. Within days, a tentative peace settled across the galaxy, allowing all parties to focus fully on the terraform seed crisis. A massive coordinated effort began to take shape. Ships from every member species of the Galactic Council, now joined by Vorac's vessels, formed a vast armada dedicated to distributing the junk food seed traps. Earth, once on the brink of isolation and starvation, now stood at the center of this galactic endeavor. Dr. Howard, aboard the Starweaver, took charge of overseeing the deployment in the most heavily affected systems. He watched in awe as the plan unfolded. The terraform seeds, drawn by the irresistible lure of Earth's junk food, made contact with the traps and were swiftly neutralized. "It's working," Dr. Howard breathed, watching real-time data stream in from across the galaxy. "It's actually working." Back on Earth, Caleb and Lyra coordinated efforts from the New York Command Center. The situation had grown dire, with major cities teetering on the brink of being overrun by the rapidly growing alien plants. Central Park had become an impenetrable jungle of writhing, iridescent vegetation. The Statue of Liberty, now completely engulfed, stood as a haunting monument to the crisis. As Caleb pored over the latest reports, a wild idea struck him. He turned to the holographic display of Earth's weather patterns, his mind racing. "Lyra," he said, his voice tight with excitement and apprehension, "what if we use the planet's weather control systems to create a global rainstorm infused with the deactivation wave?" Lyra's form shimmered with surprise. "The systems designed to combat climate change? It's possible, but the risks—" "I know," Caleb nodded grimly, "but at this point, what choice do we have?" The next few hours were a blur of frantic activity. Scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to modify the weather control systems, while Dr. Howard's team rushed to produce enough of the deactivation wave to blanket the entire planet. As storm clouds began to gather over Earth's skies, tension mounted. The interim government, after much debate, gave the go-ahead. Caleb stood at the command center's window, watching as the sky darkened ominously. "Here goes everything," he murmured. The storm broke with a fury unlike anything Earth had seen before. Rain lashed down in sheets, carrying with it the invisible but potent deactivation wave. For hours, the planet was battered by wind and rain. When the storm finally cleared, the effect was immediate and dramatic. The alien vegetation began to wither and disintegrate before their eyes, leaving behind rich, nutrient-dense soil. Native plant species, long suppressed by the aggressive terraform seeds, started to resurge. Caleb watched in awe as Central Park transformed. The alien jungle receded, replaced by tentative sprouts of grass and the unfurling leaves of native trees. The Statue of Liberty emerged from its verdant cocoon, battered but standing proud. As news of Earth's success spread, other affected planets began to adopt similar strategies, adapting the approach to their unique environments. The galactic community watched in amazement as world after world was reclaimed from the brink of ecological disaster. In the aftermath of the crisis, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Caleb, now hailed as a hero across the galaxy, stood before the assembled delegates. His voice rang clear as he proposed the establishment of an interstellar environmental protection agency. "We've seen the damage that unchecked environmental manipulation can cause," he argued. "We need a coordinated approach to protect the diverse ecosystems of our member worlds. And yes," he added with a wry smile, "Earth's junk food technology will serve as a cornerstone of our rapid response capabilities." The council chamber buzzed with excited discussion. As the vote was called, the outcome was unanimous. The proposal was approved. In a gesture that left many stunned, the gardeners stepped forward. Their spokesperson, a being of shifting light and color, addressed the council. "We offer to share our ancestral knowledge of sustainable terraforming techniques," they announced, "to be used under the strict oversight of this new agency, of course." As the session drew to a close, one final surprise awaited. Commander Krell, newly promoted for his role in the crisis, approached the podium. "The Vorax petition for full membership in the Galactic Council," he declared, his voice echoing through the chamber. A hush fell over the assembly, followed by an eruption of voices. Debate raged, but in the end, the petition was accepted. Caleb watched as Krell took his place among the council members, a sight he never thought he'd see. As the dust settled, Earth found itself in a unique position. Once on the brink of starvation and isolation, it now stood as a linchpin of galactic society. The planet's junk food, once a symbol of excess and poor health, had become a valuable resource and a testament to human ingenuity. Caleb stood at the viewing deck of the newly constructed New York spaceport, watching ships from dozens of alien species dock and depart. He felt a presence beside him and turned to see Lyra, her silvery form shimmering in the sunlight. "What's next, Ambassador Wright?" she asked, her melodious voice tinged with curiosity. Caleb smiled, his gaze returning to the bustling spaceport. "Now," he said, "we build on this. We've got a galaxy to protect, and a lot of work ahead of us." As if on cue, his comm device chirped. A message from Dr. Howard flashed across the screen. "Caleb, we've got a situation developing in the Andromeda Galaxy. How do you feel about taking Earth's finest snack cakes on an intergalactic road trip?" Caleb chuckled, shaking his head. It seemed the adventure was a long way to go.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.